The floor went quiet. Not the polite quiet of a meeting called to order. The held breath quiet of 40 people watching something they couldn't stop. Marcus Hale stood at his workstation. Folder open. Hands flat on the desk. He did not look up. Regional Director Clive Sutton had been speaking for 90 seconds straight. His voice carried across the entire third floor of Meridian Logistics Solutions. He wanted it to carry. "You have been underperforming this department for 2 years, Mr. Hale." Sutton moved around the desk. Closer. Deliberate. 2 years of mediocre output. 2 years of covering for you. He gestured at the open folder. "And now this." Marcus looked at the folder. Then at Sutton. Then back at the folder. He said nothing. 2 rows back, a woman named Delia pressed her lips together. She had worked with Marcus for 6 years. She knew what was in that folder. She knew something Sutton did not know. "Effective immediately," Sutton said, loud enough for the copy room to hear. "Your employment with Meridian is terminated." Marcus closed the folder. He straightened the edge. He folded his hands. He thought about his daughter, Cora. Years old. 3rd grade. Left a half-eaten sandwich on the kitchen counter this morning. He had wrapped it in foil and put it in the fridge. She would be home at 3:15. He had 4 hours to figure out what to say to her. What no one in that room knew, what Sutton had never bothered to learn, was that Marcus Hale had once built a logistics routing system used by 3 Fortune 500 companies. He had done it quietly. He had done it alone. And 6 weeks earlier he had been doing it again. Marcus did not start at Meridian as a file coordinator. That was the title on his badge. It was not who he was. 11 years ago, he had been a senior systems architect at a firm called Vantage Supply Chain Partners. He designed optimization software, the kind that moves freight across continents without a human hand touching the schedule. He had 3 direct reports. He gave presentations to boards. He wore suits that cost more than some people's rent. Then his wife Renata got sick. Not the kind of sick that comes and goes. The kind that reorganizes everything. Treatment schedules. Insurance calls. Driving to appointments. Being home when Cora woke up frightened at 2 a.m. Being the one who knew where Renata's favorite blanket was and which nurse on the 3rd floor she trusted. Marcus left Vantage. He told himself it was temporary. It was not temporary. After Renata died, Cora was 4. Marcus could not go back to what he had been. The version of himself that cared about quarterly metrics felt like a stranger. He needed work that ended at 5. Work that had no meetings he couldn't leave. Work where no one needed him to be impressive. He found Meridian. File coordination. Supply chain records management. Quiet work. Invisible work. Work that paid enough and asked nothing of him after 5 p.m. He was good at it. Better than the job required. Cora was in 2nd grade when he started. On his first day she gave him a drawing of a man with a briefcase and a hard hat. "For your new job," she said. He taped it to the inside of his locker. It was still there. Clive Sutton had arrived at Meridian 14 months ago. He came from a retail logistics company in Phoenix. He had a framed photo of himself shaking hands with someone famous on his desk. He referred to the photo often. In meetings. When making decisions. As though proximity to someone famous was a credential. On his 3rd week, Sutton restructured the filing department. New quotas. New tracking sheets. New weekly performance summaries submitted every Friday by noon. "Accountability," he said in the all-hands meeting. "Meridian has been coasting. That ends today." No one mentioned that the filing department had not missed a deadline in 4 years. Marcus submitted his performance summaries every Friday. Quietly. Time. He included notes. Small observations about process inefficiencies that added up to large delays. Routing redundancies. Document handling bottlenecks. Sutton never responded to the notes. What Sutton did not know, what he had never thought to ask, was that Marcus spent his lunch breaks in the server room. He had befriended the IT technician, a man named Gio, who had noticed that Marcus understood systems the way most people understand their own handwriting. Geo had given Marcus read-only access to the legacy routing database. For the pleasure of it. For the same reason some people work crossword puzzles. Marcus had been quietly mapping an optimization solution for 6 weeks. He hadn't told anyone. It wasn't his job. He was just doing it because his mind wouldn't let problems rest. The folder Sutton had opened that morning contained Marcus's last 3 performance summaries. Sutton had marked each one with a red pen, circled sections, added margin notes. The margin notes said things like, insufficient throughput and see revised benchmarks. The revised benchmarks had been issued 8 days ago. They required file coordinators to process 30% more records per shift. They had not been discussed. They had not been piloted. They had appeared in an email at 6:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Marcus had processed exactly what the original benchmarks required. He had been doing that for 2 years without a single complaint. You see this number, Sutton said, pointing at a circled figure on the page. He held the summary up. For everyone to see. This is what I have been tolerating for 2 years. Marcus looked at the number. That matches the original quota, he said. The original quota, Sutton repeated, savoring the phrase. Mr. Hale, we are not a museum. We don't preserve things because they're original. The benchmarks were updated. Every other coordinator is meeting the new standard. They were given 3 weeks of transition time. You had the same email I sent everyone. At 6:47 on a Thursday. Sutton smiled. Not warmly. Excuses sound the same regardless of how calmly they're delivered. Delia, 2 rows back, wrote something on a notepad. She folded it. She held it in her lap. There's also the matter of unauthorized access, Sutton said. The floor shifted. People who had looked away looked back. IT flagged a login to the legacy routing database. Your credentials. Repeated access over 6 weeks. Geo gave me read access. Geo, Sutton said, is not your department head. I am. I wasn't modifying anything. You were accessing systems outside your role. That is a policy violation. He turned to address the floor now. Not Marcus. The floor. This is exactly the kind of boundary problem that goes unaddressed and becomes a liability. Marcus said nothing. Across the room, near the supply closet, a man named Raymond, regional operations consultant, brought in 8 months ago, quiet, always taking notes, stopped writing. He watched Marcus's hands. Flat on the desk. Will. Pack your things, Sutton said. Security will walk you out. Marcus pulled open his drawer. Took out a travel mug. A folder of his own. The taped drawing from Cora. Folded carefully, placed last. He did not rush. He did not look at anyone. He picked up his phone. Stepped into the stairwell. Called Cora's school. Let them know he would be picking her up at 3:15 instead of the after-school program. Everything okay? The receptionist asked. Yes, he said. Thank you. He went back for his box. Sutton was still at the desk. Still talking. To Delia now, apparently. I want those revised benchmarks distributed again. I want it documented that this conversation occurred. It'll be documented, Delia said. Her voice had a quality to it. Sutton did not notice. Marcus carried his box to the elevator. Raymond held the door. They rode down in silence. At the lobby, Raymond said. For what it's worth. Marcus waited. Raymond said nothing else. At 3:12 p.m., Marcus was parked outside Cora's school. She came through the door with her backpack and a paper crown from art class. She climbed into the back seat. You're early, she said. Slow day. She put on her seatbelt. Can we have the noodles tonight? Yeah, Marcus said. We can have the noodles. He pulled out of the parking lot. She started telling him about a disagreement over a board game at recess. He listened to all of it. The first letter arrived 11 days later. Marcus had spent those 11 days applying for positions, quietly, methodically, the way he did everything. 3 callbacks, 2 interviews. One offer that fell through when the company learned he had been terminated for a policy violation. The word violation did what Sutton had intended it to do. The letter was from a law firm, Meridian's legal counsel. It alleged that during his unauthorized database access, Marcus had downloaded proprietary routing data. It demanded he preserve all personal devices for potential discovery. It named a figure for damages. The figure had 4 zeros. Marcus read it twice, set it on the kitchen table, went to the stove and started the noodles. Cora came in while he was stirring. She put her backpack on the chair, started her homework without being asked. He watched her for a moment. She was writing with her left hand, the way Renata had. Tongue just barely pressed between her lips. He turned back to the stove. He had downloaded nothing. The read-only access was exactly that. Read-only. He had the documentation to prove it. He knew that Geo would confirm it. He also knew that legal threats don't require truth to cause damage. They require time and legal fees and the willingness to fight. He had 2 of those 3 things. He called Geo that night. Geo had already been interviewed by HR. He had told them the access was authorized. He had also been told he was on a performance improvement plan. The plan had started the day after Marcus was terminated. "I'm sorry, man," Geo said. "You don't have anything to be sorry about," Marcus said. Marcus sat with the letter for 3 more days. He had, in those 6 weeks of lunch-hour work, built something. Not just a set of notes. A functioning model. A routing optimization framework for Meridian's legacy system that he estimated would reduce their freight delay rate by 23% and save approximately $800,000 annually. He had it on his personal drive. He had not used Meridian systems to build it. Just the data he had observed, the patterns he had memorized. He could send it somewhere. He could leak the legal letter. He could call the trade publication that had covered Meridian's last operational review. He could make Clive Sutton's professional life significantly harder with a single email. He did not write the email. Not because he was afraid. Because Cora had given him something last week that he kept thinking about. She had found an old photograph. From before, from when Renata was alive. Marcus was in it, laughing at something off camera. She had studied it for a long time. "You look the same," she said. Yeah. She gave it back to him. "You always look like that." He didn't know if she meant the laugh or something quieter underneath it. He kept the photograph on the counter. The night after the 3rd day, he filed a formal response to the legal claim. Documented, measured, correct. He sent it himself without a lawyer, because he could not afford one. He then wrote a single email. To Raymond. It contained 11 words. "I don't know who you work for, but I thought you should know." Attached, the full routing optimization framework. He pressed send. He went to Cora's room. She was already asleep. Her paper crown from 3 weeks ago was still on her nightstand. He picked it up, set it straighter. He went to bed. He did not sleep for a long time. The next morning, Cora came to the kitchen and found him already at the table. She could tell something was different. She did not ask. She poured herself cereal, sat across from him. The sounds of the spoon, the refrigerator hum, neither of them speaking. He looked at her. She looked at her cereal. Then she looked at him. She reached across the table and put her hand on top of his. Left it there. Then she picked up her spoon again. He did not say anything. He did not need to. Marcus learned what Raymond actually did from a press release. He found it online 14 days after sending the email. He had been looking for contract logistics work. He almost missed it. The headline read, "Hargrove Capital completes acquisition of Meridian Logistics Solutions." He read it. Read it again. Raymond Hargrove. Not regional operations consultant. The Hargrove. Owner. Founder. The man whose name was on the building of the company that had just purchased Meridian. Marcus closed the laptop. He thought about the elevator. The hell door. For what it's worth. He picked Cora up from school. She asked if they could get ice cream. They got ice cream. He told her nothing. On a Monday morning, 17 days after the press release, Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number. He picked up. A woman introduced herself as Elena Hargrove, Raymond's daughter, Chief Operating Officer of Hargrove Capital. She had read the framework. All of it. She had sent it to 3 of their logistics engineers. Their assessment: functional, conservative in its estimates, and based on a deeper understanding of Meridian's legacy infrastructure than anyone currently on staff possessed. "We want to talk to you," she said. "I'm available," Marcus said. The meeting was on a Wednesday. Not a call. In person. At the Meridian building. 3rd floor. Marcus wore the same kind of clothes he had worn every day for 2 years. Clean. Pressed. Unremarkable. He took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The doors opened. The floor was not arranged as it had been. Raymond Hargrove stood near the central workstation. Elena stood beside him. 2 engineers Marcus did not recognize held printed copies of his framework. Clive Sutton was also there. He was standing to the side. He had a yellow legal pad. The legal pad was empty. He saw Marcus step off the elevator. Something moved across his face. Not guilt. Not quite. More like a man who has been playing a card game and has just realized the deck was stacked against him from the beginning. Raymond Hargrove extended his hand. "Marcus." "Mr. Hargrove." "Raymond." Marcus shook his hand. Elena began. She was efficient. She used precise language. She had clearly read the framework more than once. She walked through 3 sections of it. Asked 2 clarifying questions. Marcus answered both in under 30 seconds each. The engineers exchanged a look. Delia was at her workstation. She was not pretending to work. She was watching. Geo had been reinstated. Marcus saw his badge on the IT rack near the wall. Raymond turned to Sutton. "Clive. The documentation on the policy violation claim." Sutton opened his legal pad. Found nothing. Looked up. It was a standard protocol action. IT flagged. "The read access was authorized," Raymond said. "Not a question. A statement." Quiet. "It wasn't authorized through proper channels." "The legal claim," Elena said, "has been withdrawn. This morning." The floor heard that. Sutton's legal pad lowered. Raymond turned back to Marcus. "We're creating a new role. Systems Optimization Director. It's yours if you want it." Marcus looked at Raymond. Then at Elena. Then briefly at Sutton. Sutton was looking at the floor. Marcus said, "When do you need an answer?" Raymond smiled. "Take the week." Delia made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. It was close. Geo, near the IT rack, pressed his lips together in a way that meant he was trying very hard not to pump his fist. Marcus thanked them. Shook Raymond's hand again. Shook Elena's. Nodded at the engineers. He walked to the elevator. As the doors opened, he heard Sutton say something behind him. He did not hear what it was. He pressed the lobby button. He thought about Cora. He thought about the paper crown. He thought about a hand placed on top of his across a kitchen table. The elevator descended. Outside it was a clear morning. He called Cora's school. Asked them to tell her when she arrived that her dad said hi. The receptionist said she would. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment. Then he got in his car. He had a week to think. He already knew his answer. 4 months later, Cora asked him why he hadn't talked about what was happening when it was happening. They were at the kitchen table. The noodles again. She was 9 now. He thought about it. "Because I didn't want to put my weight on you," he said. She stirred her bowl. "I'm not small," she said. He looked at her. "No," he said. "You're really not." Clive Sutton left Meridian 3 weeks after the acquisition was finalized. The legal claim against Marcus was not only withdrawn but formally retracted, with a letter of correction placed in his employment file. The performance benchmarks were reviewed. 7 former employees received correspondence. Gio was promoted to senior IT infrastructure lead. Delia became department coordinator. Marcus's routing optimization framework, the one built during lunch breaks in the server room on his own time with nothing to gain, went live in the second month of his new role. Freight delay rates dropped 19% in the first quarter. The revised projection put annual savings at just over $900,000. He did not gloat. He sent a summary email. Clear. Measured. 3 paragraphs. He left at 5 o'clock. Every day. Because Cora got home at 3:15 and someone had to be there to hear about the board game disagreements and the paper crowns and the days that were fine and the days that weren't. That was always the job. The other job just finally caught up. There is something that power built on suppression cannot survive. And that is a witness who recognizes what they are looking at. Clive Sutton had a title, a red pen, and the volume of a man certain of his authority. He had never thought to ask who he was actually dealing with. That is the cost of arrogance dressed as leadership. Power that depends on keeping others small is not power at all. It is fear with a title. Marcus never sought revenge. He sent 11 words and an attachment. He made the noodles. He listened to his daughter. He let the truth do what truth does when it finally gets enough air. Here is the question this story leaves with me, and I want to leave it with you. When someone wrongs you publicly and you have the power to expose them, to make the call, to send the email, to let the world know exactly what they did, do you use it? Or do you let the truth do the work? There's no clean answer. Sometimes silence is dignity. Sometimes silence is complicity. The difference lives in that space between what you know you could do and what you choose to do. Marcus knew what he could do. He chose differently. Make of that what you will. If this story landed with you, if you've ever been the person in that room who no one thought to look at twice, share this video with someone who has been underestimated. They'll know what it means. Subscribe to Solo Dad Stories. And hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. These are stories about dignity, justice, and the strength it takes to say nothing when everything in you wants to speak. We'll see you in the next one.